If you suffer from claustrophobia, don't watch this video. This is the story of the Nutty Putty Cave Incident, one of the most terrifying and tragic cave accidents that has ever happened, where 26-year-old John Jones found himself stuck upside down in a crevice the size of a washing machine door, 100 feet underground in the dark. Honestly, just saying it out loud gives me goosebumps. So, grab a drink, take a seat, and come with me as we explore the Nutty Putty Cave Incident. So, the strangely named Nutty Putty Cave was first explored in 1960. It's basically this giant underground cave with various tight turns and passages. It's super fun, apparently, if you're into that, which I absolutely would not be into that. Thousands of people every year would visit this cave to crawl around and explore, deep underground in the damp, dark, tight passageways. Honestly, this sounds like a horror film. But our story starts in 2009 when two brothers, Josh Jones and John Jones, along with 9 of their friends, decided to head down and explore these caves. Now, this was all set up quite professionally. You know, you went there, you registered, you got a briefing and a map of the caves. Basic safety standards were met, like a hard hat, a light, that sort of thing. And to enter, you needed someone in the group who was an experienced caver, which Josh and Jones were. I say were, but they really hadn't been caving much since they were kids. So they decided to get back into it, and it suggested that they probably weren't experienced enough to be doing this unguided. So they arrived at the cave at 8 p.m, got prepared, and headed down. Everything was going well, at least for the first hour or so. The group had explored the largest room in the cave, a sloped area called the Big Slide. But then, Josh and Jones and a few friends decided to take on a challenge. This challenge was a very narrow, difficult passageway called the birth canal for obvious reasons, and it opened out into a large room. Josh went first, pushing himself into the tight passageway, but there was no sight of the large room. So he continued to inch his way forward, bit by bit, but still nothing. The passageway then made a sharp downward turn, and perhaps noticing that the tunnel got wider at the bottom, Josh decided to push on. But this wasn't the birth canal. It's not entirely clear from the accounts, but it's very likely that Josh had taken a wrong turn just before the birth canal, leading to a relatively uncharted area called Ed's Push. Ed's Push did not lead out into a larger room. It didn't lead anywhere. He had pushed himself through a gap that required him to suck in his chest in order to get past, which made it very difficult to come back. He then continued down further into the crevice, hoping that he was maybe about to emerge into a wide open area that he could turn around and come back in. But this was a dead end. John was stuck. He was almost completely upside down, stuck in a crevice about 10 inches by 18 inches wide. His arms were trapped and pinned between his body and the wall, and all that could be seen from behind were his feet sticking out. He was helpless, more than 100 feet below the surface, with no way out. All John could do was wait. So the first person to find John was his brother Josh. Josh tried to pull him out of the crevice, but had very little luck. Josh was able to inch him up a little bit, but as soon as he let go, John just fell back down the hole. They needed help. The brothers said a quick prayer, and then Josh headed back up to the surface to get help. Now, due to the depth and awkwardness of this cave, it took about an hour to get from the surface to John, and vice versa. So the first person to arrive at John's side after his brother was a woman called Susan, a local rescue volunteer. Over 3 hours later, she had heard the message on the rescue pager, dropped everything, and raced towards the cave. She quickly made her way down through the passages and reached John, where she tried to reassure him. "Hi John, my name is Susie. How's it going?" "Hi Susie, thanks for coming. But I really want to get out." So over the next few hours, dozens of rescuers arrived at the caves and tried to come up with a plan to get John out. See, the big problem was with the way that John had got himself into this crevice and how he was positioned. It was seemingly very difficult, if not impossible, to just pull him out. The turn that he had made had a low ceiling, and so there was no space to just pull him straight up. And if John were pulled towards where he came from, it would likely break his legs, which is something they actually considered doing to save his life, but it never came to that. So when people are upside down for extended periods of time, normally 10 plus hours, the heart starts to fail. This is because it normally relies on gravity in order to help push the blood away from the upper body. Eventually, fluid starts to pool up around the head and lungs, so with quite a few hours having passed already, they were really against the clock. They eventually decided to use a set of pulleys drilled into the rock with rope attached to it. One end would be tied around John's legs, the other end being pulled by the rescuers. And all of this being done in the terrifyingly tight and dark passageways just made even the simplest of tasks extremely awkward and difficult. John now had difficulty breathing and was swinging back and forth between panic and calm. At one point they actually brought a two-way radio down to give to John so he could speak to his wife to maybe help calm him down. But by now he had been upside down for 19 hours. There was a change of fate when the rescuers finally got the pulley working. They started to pull John out of the crevice but had to frequently stop due to the pain that it caused. But they slowly managed to pull John up high enough where he could actually make eye contact with the rescuer closest to him. "How are you?" the rescuer said. "It sucks. I'm upside down. I can't believe I'm upside down. My legs are killing me." Apparently he looked tired, with red eyes and a dirty face, but otherwise was in good spirits, and even had a smile on his face. On the next pull they made, everything turned for the worst. Midway through their pull, the rescuers felt the rope go slack, and they fell backwards. The rescuer closest to John felt something hard hit his face, and he blacked out. When he came to, a few seconds later, all he could see was dust, and after waiting for the dust to clear, he realized what had happened. The stone arch above John's legs, where the rope was tied, had shattered, badly injuring the rescuer and dropping John even deeper into the crevice than he was before. The rescuer was replaced by his dad, who was also on the rescue team, and he desperately tried to tie the rope around John's waist, eventually actually getting stuck himself. After a while, he actually got himself free, drilled a new hole for the pulley, and left the passageway to be replaced by someone else. The new rescuer managed to reach John, but by now he was unresponsive. Soon after that, a medical examiner crawled down through the cave and reached John, but after finding no pulse, John was pronounced dead at midnight on the 25th of November, a full 27 hours after getting stuck. The next day, authorities determined that it would be too risky to retrieve John's body, and a week after that, they decided to permanently close the caves, filling the entrance shut with concrete. John's body was never recovered and remains in that crevice to this day. This was a sad one. Not only was it terrifying, especially if you're not a fan of tight places, but the fact that John was so young at only 26 and was a husband and father of two, it honestly breaks my heart. And even though the rescue wasn't successful, the rescuers honestly deserve a huge amount of respect. A total of 137 rescuers turned up and worked for 27 hours to bring John out of that cave. Quite a few of them suffered injuries themselves, and the fact that so many of them were willing to risk getting stuck or dying themselves, all to save John, shows that these people really had the right heart to be rescuers. And that's the incident of the Nutty Putty Cave. It seems like such a silly name for such a tragic incident, but I'm sure John would have smiled at it. He seemed like such a great father, a great husband, a great person. He had a really good sense of humor and high spirits, as was evidenced even towards the end. And that is all we have time for. Let me know what you think of stories like this. There's not much mystery to them. It's a little more thriller or horror, I guess. But yeah, let me know what you think about it. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.